Alright, so we are here today for our very first Harry Potter Friday. All summer long, we're going to be doing crafts on Fridays. This one is a tiny bit different because we're going to learn a little something, then we're going to be doing our crafts. Every Friday, you're welcome to tune in, learn how to do a new craft. We're going to be having Professor Lupin's class. We're going to be having Care of Magical Creatures. We're going to be wand making. We have all kinds of fun stuff planned every Friday at 1:30 on Facebook Live, or you can catch us on YouTube if you miss us or you're not on Facebook. Catch us there as well. If you live near the Anastasia Island branch, we will be leaving some of the supplies outside in little paper bags that you're free and welcome to come by and swing by to pick up. A list will always be placed on our website for the event so you can see what kind of supplies you're going to need. So let's get to it for our very first Harry Potter Friday with one of my favorite characters from the books. Believe it or not, is actually Fawkes. Fawkes is a Phoenix. You are right. So we're going to learn a little bit about the mythology of phoenixes. I'm going to make my head small here so I'm not in the picture. Alright, so what is a phoenix? A phoenix is, there we go, a large mythical bird. Some cultures refer to it as a firebird. Okay, mythological bird simply means it's not a real thing that we know of. It occurred in a lot of like stories or legends from a really long time ago. Frequently, it's a hero. Let's see if we can see some common things with our phoenixes slash firebirds. So what do you see in all these pictures? What looks the same? Yeah, it's usually associated with red, really vibrant colors. In the pictures you can't tell, but frequently when you read the stories, it has a massive wingspan. It's just huge. A lot of them has like an eagle body or a falcon body. The colors red and orange are associated with it because it tends to rise up out of the flames. A lot of the stories, really ancient stories, actually make it almost sound like there is a peacock tail or peacock feathers associated with it. Also, the cry that it emits seems to be amazingly close to that of a peacock as well. So we all know, if you live in St. Augustine and you've ever been around downtown, we've all heard those peacock cries. Firebird, phoenix, are they the same thing? Well, we tend to use that word interchangeably, those words interchangeably now. However, early on, firebirds are mostly something you would see in the Russian mythology or in Slavic mythology. It didn't have that peacock body, it had more of a falcon body. It was considered a national protector. It was seen as a warrior of justice who would swoop out of the sky in those times. So a little bit different originally. We do tend to use that word though, those words interchangeably now. Today we kind of see them as the same thing. So what do phoenix, what do firebirds, what do they do? Well, if you've read Harry Potter, some of this you're going to know. So they symbolize the life and death cycle because they grow old, they age, they die, and then they're reborn out of the flames. That also symbolizes in a lot of culture the journey of the human soul, where you're morphing and remorphing, where the end is just the beginning to something else. Now, there are symbols in a lot of cultures as well as royal power. These are seen as the messenger of the gods. They're seen as the king of birds. They were very highly revered. There are also objects of quests in fairy tales. So Fawkes, I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't read Harry Potter, but was really important, and he kind of came into play in those kind of quest-like situations. They were usually initiated somehow in a quest by a tail feather, again, Harry Potter, at which point the hero would set out to capture the live bird. Now, that obviously did not happen in Harry Potter, but some of those things did come into play. She did use some of those. They were also, in ancient times, as considered a part of the sun and revival of new life. So these birds would show themselves during the summer solstice, and they would recreate themselves in a burst of flame, and then they would build a nest, go into winter, and we have the cycle. All right, so some of the older birds, now you are not going to believe this when you see it, but one of the oldest incarnations of this phoenix is in Egypt. It's called the Bennu bird. All right, it is a large bird with a melodious cry. Again, described more like almost like a peacock type cry. It was associated with the sun. It represented the Ba, or the soul of the sun god. In the late period, the hieroglyph of the bird was actually used to represent that the deity of Ra directly. So let's see here. There we go. Looks nothing like we think of the phoenix today at all, other than it is a very large, majestic bird, and obviously when that bird would show its wingspan, it would be quite significant. Okay, the Bennu bird was also associated with the flooding of the Nile, and that's that birth and death cycle. So as the Nile would flood, it would bring in a new season, crops, death, new cycle again. All right, it's a manifestation of Osiris. Again, a physical representation of the god Osiris. And that was actually depicted by this in the drawings here. And here we have that symbolization of the Nile. And we have Osiris here on the boat. So, a Greek historian by the name of Herodotus. This is one of the first written accounts that we actually have of a phoenix. And I'm showing you the city of Heliopolis. And this is where he refers to our first known reference to a phoenix. According to Herodotus, this is a quote from his actual writings, he says, "Another sacred bird is the phoenix. I have not seen a phoenix myself, except in paintings, for it is very rare and only visits the country, so they say at Heliopolis, only at intervals of 500 years on the occasion of the death of the parent bird." Then he goes on to say that the Bennu bird came from Arabia every 500 years, which he refers to as the phoenix, so he changed that name. Before the phoenix died, it would build a nest of incense and twigs, and he would lay down in it and die. From that, a small worm would emerge, and the sun's heat, so instead of a fire, they used the sun's heat would transform that bird into the new phoenix. So according to Herodotus, the bird had a life cycle of about 500 years. And it didn't go up in flames, it had the association of the sun. So in Greece then, we start seeing the use of the word phoenix to describe this bird, and the imagery changes significantly. So here we have flames coming out, a definitely different type of body and wings. Okay, according to the Greeks, the phoenix resembled an eagle with red and gold feathers. It was believed to have lived about 500 to 1400 years. So they could live a really, really long time. They all believed it was from Arabia, which is exactly what Herodotus had said in his poem, that it would come from Arabia and go to the city of Heliopolis. Okay. There we go. It was also associated with the god Apollo. And here we have the sun and the fire imagery. It believed that there at the dawn, Apollo would stop his chariot and listen to the phoenix sing every morning. So that's how it became that thing. Historians and poets wrote about the phoenix a lot. If you actually are interested and you want to research it, you can find a good number of writings about the phoenix. They believed that the phoenix could die and be reborn. One interesting thing that they believed, that only one phoenix could live at a time. So therefore, it was the loneliest bird ever. And that would be a pretty lonely life, because you live 500 to 1400 years by yourself. Pretty, yeah. All right. So let's see. In China, we have the Finke Wing, which is yet another type of phoenix. So let's keep going here. Okay, the phoenix is one of 4 of the Chinese sacred animals. Okay, he is considered the mythical king of all birds. And here's where we can really see these peacock style feathers coming in. Okay, the idea of the phoenix actually dates thousands of years back in Chinese mythology. Way longer. It's much older than the Western phoenix. We also have different colors, which is really these peacock colors coming into play in here. Okay, this creature, all the colors were symbolic. Okay, this creature was very positive. It was only believed to appear in times of stability, peace, wealth, prosperity, general well-being. In Japan, they associate this bird with loyalty, with justice, with the beginning of things. It was always, again, considered with more positive. It was something that you would see and get really excited to see because you knew that it was a time of prosperity or well-being. All right, so now something new I learned and really brings in the Harry Potter thing is the phoenix is also an alchemical symbol. What is alchemy? Does anyone know what alchemy is? Alchemy is actually a form of philosophy. It's the idea that you could transform one substance into another, like copper into gold. So, in Harry Potter, what's the first book? The Philosopher's Stone. It right there starts bringing in the idea of this alchemy, again, phoenix, into the whole storyline. So I got really excited, as you can tell. The more I learned about the phoenix, the more I realized she really incorporated this into these books. It represents, the phoenix represents those actual changes that occur in the chemical reactions through the colors, the property of matters. It's through the Philosopher's Stone. Okay, so we have the thought that the tears of the phoenix were thought to have great healing powers. Again, if we've read Harry Potter, we've seen that as well. She really did an excellent job incorporating all of this, the symbolism into the whole Harry Potter thing. How Harry changes, how some of the other characters change, how Fox helps represent those changes. It's really amazing the job that she did there. So modern additions to the myth say that the tears of the phoenix have these huge, amazing healing powers. That's more of a modern thing. So right now we are going to go and we are going to do a phoenix craft or two, and I did one of each of these. I will show them to you, and then I will show them how I made them. I ended up changing the bird just a little bit because I didn't have all those supplies at my home because I am still home, and we'll see how I did. The mask craft is really fun though. Alright, so we'll see you in just a minute. Okay, so we're going to try 2 crafts together. We're going to try a really cool little phoenix mask that we're going to make today, and you can even put holes in the sides and wear it. And we'll also have a second craft, which is just a little phoenix bird today that we're going to do. Both of them, if you don't have paint on hand, you can always use markers, you can use crayons, whatever you have. It's okay if you don't have paint. So what I did was, leave this right here for you, and we'll start with that one. On that, what I did was I used a paper plate, and I just kind of drew just like what I hoped was a generic bird face on a piece of paper plate. You can use white paper too. I just chose the paper plate because it's a little bit more sturdy, so if you're going to wear it as a mask, it just kind of works a little bit better. Okay, there we go. I got a little beak on there. Nothing fancy at all. And in order to do this, I figured out where my eyes are. I literally held it up to my face, and I kind of pushed on where my eyes were and drew that. there we go. Have the mask all set now. Here we are. Okay, and I'm gonna paint. All right, so my paint, my red paint is no longer good, and I actually have, if you tuned in the other week, some watercolors that we made during our class. So if you don't have paint, you can always go back and watch that. It is on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. And let me just get this a little bit. There we go. So there we go. We have our lovely mask. I'm going to set that to dry for just a minute. And then I went ahead and traced what I hoped was a bird shape. I'm not the best drawing person ever, so don't be intimidated by this. It's all about just having some fun. And it's an imagination creature. So you know what? Phoenixes can look however we want them to look. It doesn't look very bird shaped, but hopefully by the time we get done, it will look a lot more like a bird. Again, just going to use our little watercolors we made the other day. Paint here. A little bit more vibrant looking. Okay. Put my paintbrush in there. Move these out of the way because I tend to be very clumsy. And I'm going to pull this back. It is almost dry. I think it's dry enough that I can actually start doing some stuff on here. So on this one, I just outlined the eyes to try to make them a little bit more distinctive. Kind of give it a little bit more of a distinctive nose. So let me get that with this. There we go. Now it's running a little better. There we go. We have a little bit better eyes on there, and I think this time, rather than a black beak, I'm going to try to give it a orange beak. So. And I know you can't tell under those feathers, but I tried to give it a little bit more decoration, so I'm going to color a little bit up through here. But hopefully this will peek through some of the feathers. And again, you can decorate it however you want. There we go. Now, I put some feathers in my box here. Feathers are so much fun. They are probably incredibly messy, and I can totally see my cat paying attention here in just a minute when he figures this out. All right, so one of the things I learned from this is when you're doing this with the feathers, they tend to curve. So you want to try to push them back into a little bit straighter and bending it the opposite way to try to kind of make it a little bit flatter. It just makes it a little bit easier to glue. And then I just kind of slop the glue on. It will dry clear. All right, and then now we're going to start layering. Just make sure you layer from the top down Otherwise it turns out kind of odd. All right, so now we have our mask. It does take a little bit to dry because you have to let that glue dry really well. Then you can punch 2 holes and you have your Phoenix mask. So let me put those here. And then I'm going to do kind of the same thing with this one. I'm just going to put a few feathers. You can put your feathers wherever you want. Let's see if I can put this where y'all can see it. Can you see it there? And somewhere around here I had an eyeball. There it is. All right. So now we have our Phoenix.